And what a surprise, Whatley. After last month, May being a big month for new line items, we've already seen changes to two line items we know the industry was very happy to see be adopted. Fee Scan 3D and Fee Sketch. We're talking 3D scans and digital assets. So let's take a look at what changes to those line items happened in June 2022. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Price List Updates Summary video series brought to you by Actionable Insights. You've got Harrison here and you've got Whatley there, and we're here to talk about the changes to the June 2022 price list in Xactimate. Whatley, there are 5 new line items to highlight today, as well as a slew of changes to existing line items. That's our goal in this video series. Talk about what new line items were added to the price list, what was their intent, how are they intended to be used, and take a look at the changes to the existing line items that change all the time. Line items you might be using every day change. So it's important to know what are those changes. Whatley, this has been an exciting month, May to June for us.
You're always excited.
When
are you going to kick one of these off and be like, I don't know, man, I'm kind of down. Not a lot going on.
Last month when my voice was gone for this video recording, there you go. There you go.
I had to take up a little space that month.
Yeah. So, this has been a good month for us here at Actionable because honestly, we have not been on the road as much because we're building something in our office together, which is exciting.
Yeah,
because it hasn't really been.
Days.
2017, we built out the Insight Sheet database, Xactimate invoicing templates with line items and F9 notes. Many of you have found us or heard about us over the last 5 years. Wow, 5 years through the Insight Sheet database. Well, we've got the next generation of the Insight Sheet database coming in the Actionable Xactimate profile. You may have seen some marketing around it. We're opening up a closed beta right now for those that are interested to figure out what is Actionable building with this new profile. So if you're interested, hit us up, social media, apply for the beta. You know the gist. All right, Whatley, you ready?
I'm ready, bro.
All right. Up here, I have X1 open on my computer, and we have 5 new line items to discuss this month. The first 2 are related to ridge cap, metal roofing, detach, and reset. We have one in the MTL metal category. We have one in the RFG category. And if I take a look at the details here, you'll see on-site storage, roofing screws with neoprene washer, and labor. These new DNR ridge cap metal roofing line items are the labor cost to detach metal roofing ridge cap, move to an adjacent room, and reinstall. The labor type used in this item is a roofer, which is a fun one to call out because it's, why did they put that? This is the roofing line item. So they're explaining this is specifically a RFG roofing labor trade code. And if I went into the MTL, I would imagine that when we get in here, it says the labor type used in this is a steel worker. Yeah. Any thoughts and reactions to the new ridge cap metal roofing DNR line items here?
I've always been bewildered by the delta in price between the RFG and MTL categories, in so much as the MTL typically pays about half what the RFG does, because the RFG has such outsized exposure to what is the labor overhead, the workers' comp aspect.
Labor burden.
It's in the labor burden. Thank you. Yeah, you can tell I was teasing around the edges of that. So the labor burden is so much higher on RFG.
Well,
so
there's also a component price thing here. I mean, the component price for a roofer is $204 an hour, whereas the component price for a steel worker here is going to be $89 an hour. That's 40%, 45% of the labor cost of a roofer on a job site.
Yeah, I just don't understand exactly
which line item you would use in which situation. When is an MTL category?
Like, like even as a claims manager, it's like, okay, well, there's metal roof, like MTL. It's just it's difficult to know exactly what would apply.
I would assume for the most part that if you're doing roofing oriented work, it would be a roofing related line item. However, if there's a large amount of metal trades going on and not necessarily roofing specific, maybe the MTL is more appropriate.
Hold on, let me read you the description. Ridge cap
metal
roofing.
Yeah,
it's an important detail here.
Well, this is why we love it when contractors and carriers have the conversation about what line item would be warranted and what cost structure best represents the cost to perform this activity on this lot.
Yeah. So what Harrison's really saying is if you're a claims manager for a TPA, make sure all your contractors use MTL. And if you're a contractor and you won the job on your own accord non-program, make sure you use RFG.
Thank you for reading between the lines. All right, the other 3 line items this month are related to vinyl corner posts and trim. SDG Vinci, the vinyl outside corner post insulated. We have a vinyl inside corner post insulated and vinyl J trim. So all of these insulated options for vinyl corner posts and J trim. As we dive into the item images and the information here, right? This item is intended to be used for repair purposes and in jobs with excessive amounts of corners. So it's kind of explaining, hey, well, how did this come up? There was a need for these as individual line items for people to be able to invoice for them independently, regardless of the other siding line items that are in that scope, to capture the scope accurately of what needs to be done on that loss.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to like what's happening with a lot of snap lock flooring, how the foam underlayment is now part of it. So a lot of building materials are starting to incorporate like an insulation component, be it thermal insulation or acoustic insulation. And I think vinyl siding has gone in that direction. So the pricing department's doing a good job to respond to that.
In these vinyl corner post line items, there's siding installer, siding labor, as well as we have the 1/4-inch crown, 18 gauge staples for the air gun, and insulated vinyl siding inside corner trim. We always like, if you've not gotten into the habit of this, I always recommend clicking the line item, coming over to the unit price tab here in X1 and hitting the I for information to really see what components are in this line item, what makes this thing a line item in Xactimate.
I've always envied siding. Siding you and I don't see out here on the West Coast very often because we see stucco everywhere. And so much as it makes it so much easier in a claims environment to write up a loss, approve a loss, because siding can generally be replaced. And you don't have issues with coloring the way that you do with stucco.
Oh, yes. There's a stucco patch in the backside of my house that nobody sees that still needs to be addressed.
I come over and I look at his remodel. I'm like, oh, this looks great. And of course, I'm the one guy who's got to be like, okay, about this. Maybe we could fog coat this here in the back.
Yeah, we're going to paint the house someday. So I'm not worried about it.
You don't paint stucco and they can't breathe. That creates its own share of problems. It's true, man. So you can do it, but you really shouldn't do it, it just creates a mess of a problem. I can remember on almost every claim that involves stucco as a general contractor, was always difficult to know where the stucco started and stopped, what would be fair and reasonable when you end up scratch coating, brown coating, fog coating, trying to match. And then, newer property isn't painted, so you can't just paint it. And, HOAs won't let you just paint a new property. So it's just a mess out here with stucco. Siding, way easy to deal with. So enjoy these vinyl insulated line items.
That's all of the new line items for the June 2022 Xactimate price list. Let's now jump to the modifications. And what a surprise, Whatley. After last month, May being a big month for new line items, we've already seen changes to 2 line items we know the industry was very happy to see be adopted. Fee Scan 3D and Fee Sketch. We're talking 3D scans and digital assets. So let's take a look at what changes to those line items happened in June 2022. I'm going to open up, you guys can see on my screen here on the left side, I have the May price list open. And on the right side here, I have the June price list open. I want to take a look at Fee Scan 3D first. These are additional item information changes. So something in the text about this line item changed. And if I click for detail on the left side and I open up the item information, there has been an additional sentence added to the additional item information for Fee Scan 3D. It now says, or is added, it is up to the parties involved to determine when or if this item is warranted and what the appropriate cost should be. What are your thoughts on this clarification from the pricing department on the intent of this Scan 3D line item?
So first off, it's encouraging to see that there's an update to the additional item information, because that tells me that folks were using it. Insiders were using it. And Harrison, you might have been a part of that, getting that message out there that there was a new line item that hit. So that part is interesting. And I think this is probably a natural outcome of what I expected. I like this additional detail, outlining that it's up to the parties involved to determine when it's warranted. And I think that's informed by this perspective. If you've got a $2,500 dry down estimate that had 2 DUs and 6 air movers and was constrained to 1 room, if you're calling on these digital assets for performing the scan on site, and then you're billing for a Matterport troop plan on the back end, all of a sudden you end up with the digital assets being 50% of the overarching claim severity. That's not great. Alternatively, if you end up working on a property where, perhaps there's a large loss fire or the whole level is flooded out, and this is a $40,000 mitigation project or repair project, then your digital assets make up only a small portion, help constrain fraud, waste, and abuse, and help settle a sophisticated claim where there might be claims consultants involved and numerous adjusters, so on. And it's adding actual value. It's adding value to the policyholder, adding value to carrier. So on.
That being 3D scans,
Yeah,
3D
the
digital
scan.
assets.
You got it. Yeah, it's constraining the argument or whatever. But this additional item information, I think, just guides us to be making reasonable decisions about when to otherwise invoice it. I mean, there's plenty of folks that you and I've trained. Emergency Packout Co., one of our businesses, Harrison, they perform a Matterport scan on every single project, and it's part of their workflow where they wouldn't even know how to pack back a project without it. So, that company makes a informed decision about when they otherwise invoice for those digital assets, right?
With this conversation is completely in line with what we talk about in our Matterport scans insight sheet, our invoicing template, and the Actionable Insights Matterport certified training course. That's our online certification course. If you have not taken it, I always recommend it. People think they know Matterport at this point in its tenure in this industry, but there is so much more value to unlock there. And what do we talk about in that course about invoicing for Matterport scans and alike? Educate early, right? Tell policyholder and carrier and contractor as to here's what we'd like to perform. Here's the value that it provides. Here's the cost structure associated with it, and have that conversation as early as possible in the process. That's exactly what this change says in the additional item information. It is up to the parties involved to determine when or if this item is warranted and what the appropriate cost should be. So educate early, have the conversation.
And so that was applied to fee, sketch, and scan 3D.
Yes.
Same.
That
update,
additional
right?
sentence just saying, hey, it's up to you guys to decide when this is warranted to include in the scope.
Cool. What else happened down below here with the wood polymer lumber?
Okay. So we have a bunch of other additional item information changes that I want to call out here. The first one, the frame one, they modified the quality field or the definition to reference specifically 1/2 inch polymer lumber. We always like to show these changes here, right? So what does it say? Quality 1/2 inch wood polymer lumber. That's this line item, right? Not the most significant change, but you can see when line items are being used and there's not clarity around what is this exactly? It's nice to have these kind of qualifications in the estimate. This gable cornice strip, 3-tab, 2 stories or greater. They modified the description to update a minor typographical error. Hey, fixing errors. The sliding door line item here. And actually all of these door and siding line items, cedar slat, metal outside corner, metal inside corner, metal J trim, they were all updated in the additional item information to reference that staples are included. Right.
So they were looking at the vinyl insulated line items, and then that came up, right? And they saw area.
Well, the vinyl insulated are brand new.
Yeah, but one analyst was in the pricing department looking at that section when they were adding the vinyl insulated line items. They're like, oh, maybe these staple notion should be applied to the existing line items. Yes.
And you can see that here in the June price list, this door line items, these siding line items. Now make sure to clarify that this does include staples and always included staples from the beginning.
Cool.
Fun, sometimes Whatley, when we see new line items get added to the price list, we see corresponding changes to existing. What was new this month? Metal roofing, ridge cap, detach and reset. What happened to the metal roofing and roofing metal line items here? They all got added a detach and reset activity code, which is not something we see all the time where a line item gets a new activity code. Right. So you can see here on the left in May, there was no R for detach and reset of these line items. And we have set all these new line items to the R activity code to show off, hey, there is a new code for detach and reset on these sidewall flashing, end wall flashing, metal roofing related line items.
Yeah. I'm really curious to know how often metal roofing is detached and reset these building components. If you guys make me smart on how that works, comment down below. Let me know if you do find yourself in a claims environment detaching and resetting metal roofing components. I'd be interested to learn more.
That would be good to know. Yeah, there's been some changes in Florida around roofing recently and alike, and what kind of inspections need to be performed and things like that. So I wonder if that came up as part of that conversation, that we don't need to fully replace everything. There are aspects of roofs that can be detached and reset. Maybe it's specific to metal or not. But hey, this is why we like learning together, both you and I, and with the people that watch this video series. So you can always jump into the comment section to make sure that we grow alongside of this video series to understand the intention of all these unique changes. All right, that's what we got for the month of June 2022. Thank you for watching. A reminder, the best place to watch this video series is always getinsights.org. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Reddit or LinkedIn, you can head over to our website, getinsights.org. Below the video on getinsights.org, we have every line item highlighted so that you can jump to the point in this video where we talk about that particular line item or that particular change. Whatley, thanks for joining me today. Had a great time looking at the June line items, and I'm looking forward to see what we have in July.
You got it, man. Keep building, guys.
Good luck settling on those claims out there.